Hello everyone and welcome to another week of Wake Up Call. I'm back and you guys didn't have questions from last week, so I'm going to be diving right into it. As most of you know, I've been going down this one world religion rabbit hole, and I have a crazy claim that it's basically essentially going to be Mormonism mixed with Zoroastrianism. And I came across a tweet by a guy named Nick Hinton on X, and he clearly is basically seeing something pretty similar, and I wanted to read his tweet. But before I do, I've been saying that this religion will be called something else, or it might not be called anything at all, but the religion already exists. So now I'm adding a whole other layer on top of this blending that I've been doing. And I know it sounds crazy. You're like, when is this rabbit hole going to ever end? But it just doesn't. If you've ever heard of the Raëlism UFO cult, they did a documentary on it on Netflix. I think Vice did a documentary on it, but it's basically been around since the 70s, and it's a UFO cult, or an alien cult is what they call it. And I knew about it. Like I knew that it was a UFO cult, but I didn't realize that Clonade and all of this cloning was also linked to it. And I think that the media is making it look like a kooky cult, which it is, but they're doing that on purpose when this is actually the real direction that things are going to move in. But this tweet by Nick Hinton got my wheels turning. Like everything that I've been thinking about blending Mormonism and Zoroastrianism together to create the one world religion lines up with what he says. So a lot of people, when I talk about the blending of these religions, they see where I'm going and they get it. A lot of people think I'm nuts and I'm way off because they expect the one world religion to be literal and be Jewish, whereas I don't think that that's the case. So this Raëlism cult actually has, if you scramble the word around, Raëlism, scramble the letters, what does it? Israelism, basically, if you look at it. So I think that there's actually something here. Okay, let's read the tweet from Nick Hinton. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read bits and pieces that stand out and are in line with what I've been talking about, including the blue beam aspect to all of this. So he says, Avi Loeb is an Israeli intelligence asset, yet he is propagating the Nazis' belief in an extraterrestrial messiah. Why do this if the Nazis persecuted the Jews? Well, if the Nazis were secretly working with the Jews to create Israel in the first place, then the reason might be pretty simple. It appears the Fourth Reich, or the New World Order, will unite all religions under an alien savior. This makes a lot of sense when one considers Israel's Raëlism UFO cult and their association with Elon Musk, whom the Nazis seemed to believe would rise up as a world leader. Elon wants to use AI to create abundance and make working optional. This would fulfill Maslow's materialistic hierarchy of needs. Truly spiritual people need labor and suffering, but these people don't think so. So this would fulfill Crowley's vision of a thalamic state where individuals are finally free to pursue their will. And then I'll skip down a little bit. He says, in Crowley's religion of Thelema, Nietzsche was a forerunner of the New Age. Even though Nietzsche was a nihilist, he still used mystical language to explain his atheist philosophy. In fact, he compared himself to Zarathustra. Who's Zarathustra? He is the Jesus-like figure from Zoroastrianism, the Persian prophet who preached self-mastery and self-realization as a path to salvation. Ironically, Zarathustra was also a prophet for the angelic messenger Mithras, the central figure of the Roman cult that still rules the world to this day. The Mithric mysteries were supposed to turn people into gods. And who believes in that? The Mormons. This tradition is what inspired Rome's emperors to deify themselves like a godlike class of aristocrats. Coincidentally, the Nazis loved Roman architecture. After all, they called themselves the Third Reich, and the Holy Roman Empire was considered the first. The Nazis also admired Nietzsche, whose concept of the Übermensch was adapted into cartoons about alien saviors like Superman. So is it really a surprise that the Fourth Reich will have an enlightened extraterrestrial messiah? According to Zarathustra, the whole purpose of life is to become a master of wisdom, just like the doctrine taught by the masters of wisdom Blavatsky believed in. This was just another name for Crowley's cosmic and astral secret society and the Great White Brotherhood. Then I'll skip down a little bit. Is this why ufologists and Elon Musk are talking about a heavenly hammer all of a sudden? Is this why scientists are saying aliens are actually angels? Will the aliens teach humans how to evolve into angels too, like Mithras did? Crowley claimed we could become angels, just like Mormonism. The Lema mostly used Christian ideas. It was inspired by a Christian occultist. John Dee was talking to angels when he developed the magical system, Crowley continued. Okay, so I don't know if you guys remember, but I think it was, I want to say it was like maybe 2 years ago. Might have been a little bit more or less, but I think it was around 2 years ago. Kanye West, he posted a swastika with a Star of David combined, and he got kicked off of X. That symbol was not intended to be derogatory or a poke at any religion, actually. It's the symbol of Raëlism, the religion who cloned the first human supposedly in 2002. So Kanye West has been acting pretty weird over the past few years. Was he trying to tell us that he is cloned? Or is he trying to tell us that this is the religion that is going to take over the world? Whatever it was. Anyway, he got kicked off of X. And I think Elon Musk pulled the plug on that one. And it sounds like Elon Musk is likely a part of all of this. So is this the religion that is ultimately going to become the one world religion? And it actually looks very likely to me because it has all the components of what I've been talking about. So before I dive into what the Raëlists believe, and the background of this UFO religion, I just wanted to show you how to curiosity. I'm like, okay, so are the Mormons becoming buddies with these Raëlians? And yes, it seems like they are actually. So here's a podcast I found, and straight out of the gate, they're talking about how basically the founder of Raëlism and Mormonism, Joseph Smith, and this guy Claude Vourion are like, they went through the same exact thing, essentially meeting these Elohim and whatnot. So just listen to how they're already showing that they're buddies.
Welcome to Mormon Book Reviews, where an evangelical encounters the restoration. I am your host, Stephen Peiniger, and I have a very fascinating guest that I'm pleased to introduce to my primarily Latter-day Saint audience. He is a rabbi, originally born in Morocco, of Jewish lineage, and he is part of the Raëlian movement. My friend Ariel, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Stephen, for inviting me into your program. And I am very glad because as you are Mormons and we have so much in common with the Raëlian message given by the Elohim to Raël, like they give to Joseph Smith many years ago. And it was the same message. And Raël mentioned us, Joseph Smith, was one of the Elohim prophets.
Okay, and this is fantastic. So here we have an outside group started in 1973, in which, and we're going to have Ariel kind of give his history, but also a little bit of history of the Raëlian movement. But you have this outside movement that actually identifies Joseph Smith as a person who had an encounter with Elohim. Does that sound familiar? And is one of his prophets. Isn't that interesting? And I thought that this is very tangential to the conversation that I'm having with the Restoration of an outside group that independently made a determination that Joseph Smith is a prophet of Elohim and had engagements with him. That is mind-blowing to me, and I think it's really important that we just have this conversation to see, but not only that, but the similar cosmology of Mormonism and Raëlianism. There are many, many parallels that I think you will key in on when Ariel demonstrates that many of the beliefs that Joseph Smith was teaching that were often very innovative and new to the audience at the time were also things that the Raëlian movement has tapped into as well. So were Joseph Smith and the Raëlians, are they tapping into the same source? Do they have a similar cosmology? That's what we're going to talk about in today's episode.
Okay, so you can see, like, they're already, the whole concept of this New Age religion that this wacky UFO cult is saying to the Mormons, oh, we're a lot alike. Yeah, I think so. Now, there are parts of this cult or this religion that I actually agree with. I think that there's truth in some of this stuff. But then there's parts where it's like it so lines up with the one world, new world order agenda for a one world religion, and I can't turn a blind eye to it, and I have to tell you guys. So, what is Raëlism? Raëlism, also known as Raëlianism, is a UFO religion founded in 1970s France by Claude Vorilhon, now known as Raël. Scholars of religion classify Raëlism as a new religious movement. The group is formalized as the International Raëlian Movement, or Raëlian Church, a hierarchical organization under Raël's leadership. Raëlism teaches that an extraterrestrial species known as the Elohim created humanity using their advanced technology. An atheistic religion, it holds that the Elohim have historically been mistaken for gods. It claims that throughout history, the Elohim have created 40 Elohim/human hybrids who have served as prophets preparing humanity for news about their origins. Among them are the Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, with Raël himself as the final and 40th prophet. Raëlists believe that since the atomic bombing of Hiroshima in 1945, humanity has entered into an age of apocalypse in which it threatens itself with nuclear annihilation. Raëlism holds that humanity must find a way to harness new scientific and technological development for peaceful purposes, and that when this has been achieved, the Elohim will return to Earth to share that technology with humanity and establish a utopia. Sound familiar? To this end, Raëlians have sought to build an embassy for the Elohim that incorporates a landing pad for their spaceship. Now, I actually agree with a lot of that stuff. You're going to notice, if you're familiar with Zecharia Sitchin's work, you're going to notice a lot of parallels between the things that he talked about and this Raëlian cult or religion, excuse me. And you know, I believe a lot of the things that Zecharia Sitchin stated, but some of it I'm not exactly sure. I think that a lot of these non-humans, they're not necessarily coming from out of space. I think that a lot of times it's an interdimensional thing, or maybe inner Earth, but I don't know if they're really coming from other planets. I think that might be something that is a psyop in itself. Again, I'm not sure, but that's what I believe. Raëlians engage in daily meditation, hope for physical immortality through human cloning, and promote a liberal ethical system with a strong emphasis on sexual experimentation. Okay, so when we get into a little more of that, this guy Raël, I mean, he's like a Joseph Smith. I mean, he doesn't believe in marriage, but he basically has these like angel wives or girlfriends, whatever. I mean, it's so bizarre, but it mirrors Mormonism so much in so many ways that we're going to continue to get into. Raël first published his claims to have been contacted by the Elohim in his 1974 book, Le Livre qui dit la vérité, the book that tells the truth. He subsequently established an organization devoted to promoting his ideas, which in 1976 disbanded and was replaced by the Raëlian Church. So it was called MADEC, I think before is the way that you say it. Raël headed the new organization, which was structured around a hierarchy of 7 levels. And of course, there's, a hierarchy in just like in the Mormon Church. Raël initiated Clonaid, and a lot of you guys have probably heard of Clonaid. Maybe you know about this this religion, but I didn't. I heard of this religion, but I didn't realize that it was linked to Clonaid. Raël initiated Clonaid, an organization engaged in research and human cloning directed by Senior Raëlian Brigitte Bachelier. In 2002, the company claimed to have produced a human clone, a baby named Eve, bringing much critical scrutiny and media attention. The movement has attracted further attention through its public protests endorsing causes such as women's and gay rights and nuclear testing. So let's check out this clip. This is 60 Minutes Australia. I think that this was probably in the early 2000s, around the time that they produced this human clone. But check it out. I mean, you can see a little bit about Clonaid and the religious overlap in this clip.
We are, it seems, on the verge of possibly the most remarkable scientific breakthrough in human history, and the most controversial too. Within months, some scientists say they will have cloned a human baby. What was once thought impossible now seems unstoppable. In America, tiny human life forms are already being cloned for medical research. So is it only a matter of time before scientists take the final step? Now, you may greet this with awe or horror, but imagine a world where death could be cheated, where a lost child could be recreated, where children could recreate their dead parents. This week, Liz Hayes has been in America talking with the people determined to make history.
We are a part of history. It's forever. It will be like Adam and Eve. It's the first human being created through human cloning.
His name is Raël, and he heads a wealthy, well-organised religious sect whose faith is science and whose ambition is to use existing technology to clone a human being. When do you anticipate we will see the first cloned human being?
We plan to have it ready to show the baby between 12 to 24 months.
In a matter of months, science fiction may become science fact. A world where we no longer create new babies, but recreate old ones, over and over again.
It's huge. It will change everything in our society. It's not only the scientific aspect of creating life, but also the political, religious belief, sociology, everything is. We are entering a new world which is completely different. But there is no reason to...
A better world?
A much better world.
Raël is the leader of the French-Canadian-based Raëlian movement, which believes that aliens created all life on Earth by cloning themselves.
They came on the Earth, built big laboratories, and inside these laboratories, through DNA and cloning, they did create all life on Earth. And this place is for the encounter between them and human beings.
But don't write off this man or his followers as just another loony sect. Just because their beliefs are a little off the planet doesn't mean they can't do what they say they're going to do. It's precisely because the Raëlians are not constrained by the conventional ethics of science and society that they might just be the ones to pull it off.
I was speaking about cloning from 27 years ago. It's a long time. When I was talking in my public speech 27 years ago about we will soon clone human beings, everybody was laughing. Then came Dolly the sheep, and now nobody is laughing anymore. Everybody is afraid, and we are laughing.
Cloning is not illegal in most states in America, and the Raëlian movement has both the money and the scientific expertise.
Some people have been saying this is against the dignity of human being, and I'm saying I'm just doing a baby.
Professor Brigitte Bosselier is a biochemist and a follower of Raël. She runs a private company called Clonaid, where her scientist, she says, will be the first to clone a human. And couples are lining up to pay more than $200,000 for the procedure.
How many people have you got waiting and wanting this?
More than 100. They are a huge number.
More than 100 people wanting
to be cloned, yeah.
To clone themselves?
I would say half and half. Half of them would like to clone themselves because that's the only way to have a baby. The other half are concerned by a dead child.
Is there any aspect to cloning that would make you say, this is not what I would like?
No, except the limitation of the numbers. If somebody very rich come and say, I want 100 clones of me, I think this is not acceptable.
Was there ever a time when you thought, I'm not sure if this is the right thing to do?
The only concern I have regarding this is, am I doing it right? In terms of science.
Only 4 years ago, we reported on the birth of Dolly, the cloned sheep. Dolly proved how relatively easy cloning is. All you do is this: remove the DNA from an egg, then replace it with DNA from the skin cell of another animal and implant it into a surrogate mother. The result is an exact duplicate of the animal whose DNA was used. Since Dolly, many animals have been cloned. Now, if the Raëlians have their way, it's our turn.
All the philosophical aspects and all the concern that people have, this I'm very clear with that because I do believe that I'm not harming anybody with this. And I think this could be very beneficial for humanity.
We support freedom in every field of life. Absolute freedom, with respect of other people, but absolute freedom. But also, very important for us is a respect of freedom of science. There must be absolutely no limit to science.
So basically, this religion sees science as their religion, which we know lines up perfectly with the one world religion. They want to do away with God, and they want to do away with spirituality and being connected to the ultimate real creator. And this is where the deception comes in, because they believe that we're in the material world, and they completely reject the existence of the supernatural. Like that is complete BS, endorsing atheism and rejecting the idea that God exists. The religion's founder, Raël, characterizes traditional religion as irrational and unscientific, presenting his alternative as a philosophy free from obscurantism and mysticism. Raëlians called their belief system a scientific religion, with the International Raëlian movement using the motto, science is our religion, religion is our science. Doesn't that sound exactly like the Mormon technocratic movement? Lines right up with that, too. The religion emphasizes the use of science to solve the world's problems, and practitioners regard Rael as a pioneer of science who will one day be regarded as a peer of Galileo and Copernicus. Many of its members call it an atheistic religion and compare it to Buddhism, some branches which similarly do not promote belief in gods. So the founder, Claude Vorilhon, he has an interesting background. He was born in 1946 to a 15-year-old mother in France, and she was apparently Catholic, and the father was a Sephardic Jew, but he claims that his father was actually one of the Elohim. So this whole concept of human woman mating with a god kind of thing, he says that he basically was birthed from that scenario. But so much of what he claims lines right up with Joseph Smith. He said that he had an encounter with the Elohim in these mountains in 1973, and there had been a range of reported UFO sightings in the 70s in France, and he announced in December of 1973 that he had been contacted by the Elohim while walking along the Puy Las Solas mountain. He began promoting these ideas in his interviews on French television and radio. He began lecturing on his alleged experiences in Paris, where he attracted a group of followers, many of which were science fiction fans or amateur ufologists. So it also sounds a little bit like Scientology, a little too. And you know, we've had guests on the show like Gray, who has said a lot of these alien encounters are actually intelligence operations and they're not real. So is that what was happening in this scenario? Or was this guy actually talking to extraterrestrials? You know, like who knows? But it definitely mirrors Joseph Smith a lot. So Raël, whatever the hell his name is, says that his name came directly from the Elohim and it is derived from Israel. He says that it translates to the messenger of those who come from the sky. In his 1976 book, he says that he was contacted by the Elohim again. They took him aboard their spacecraft, and on it he was supposed to have sex with these biological robot women. So here's where, like, you know, the multiple wives thing comes in, where he was told that this is what he was supposed to do. And then he saw the Elohim create his clone and taught the techniques of sensual meditation. So this group of people basically believes that the gods in various mythologies over time are just misinterpretations of memories about the Elohim. And I mean, that could very well be true. That part could be true. I mean, there are certain aspects of this that actually don't sound that far off. They believe that the tale of Adam and Eve's expulsion from the Garden of Eden, recounted in Genesis, is interpreted as representing humans' difficult transition from the Elohim's laboratories to life on earth, where they had to become self-sufficient. And, you know, something like that very well could have happened. They also believe the resurrection of Jesus, as presented in the Gospels, is described as representing how the Elohim cloned Jesus to restore him to life after death. Now that one, I'm sorry, not falling for that one. References to Satan are interpreted as referring to the chief of a group of the Elohim planet who were opposed to genetic experimentations on Earth and who argued that all humans should be killed as a potential threat. Now that is something I do agree with. According to Raëlians, the Great Flood narrative recounts an attempt by the anti-human aliens to wipe out all humans, but that some humans were rescued by alien spacecraft, which provided the basis for the story of Noah's Ark. This is something that I think is at least possible. Various figures who established or inspired religions throughout human history, including Jesus, the Buddha, Muhammad, and Joseph Smith are portrayed by the Raëlians as having been guided by the Elohim. So Raël believes that he's the final prophet, that he's the, so this sounds, I mean, this stuff sounds totally Antichrist to me, but I'm not saying that he's the Antichrist by any means. And, you know, this small, very bizarre cult might not be the one world religion that everybody's going to end up being a part of, but I feel like it's some kind of experiment of some sort to see, like an intelligence experiment of some sort to see how a small group of people react to it and believe in this stuff. So Raël believes that every prophet who has ever existed is a result of humans breeding with Elohim, essentially, and that they were beamed onto an Elohim spacecraft, impregnated, and then returned to Earth with their memory of the event of race. So, like, the idea of a virgin birth or whatever, like, he thinks that that's what it is. And then he says that he was the biological son of Eloha, who he first encountered, also known as Yahweh. He noted that Yahweh was also the father of Jesus, making them half-brothers. Okay, completely insane. The religion also teaches that the Elohim continue to monitor every human individual on Earth remotely from their planet. This is also very similar to Mormonism, too. This is done so that the Elohim can decide which individuals merit being offered the opportunity of eternal life. So, like, they are very much about eternal life in the physical here. It argues that the Elohim continue to visit Earth as evidenced by crop circles, which adherents regard as the landing spaces of the Elohim spacecraft. Yeah, I mean, I'm becoming completely skeptical of the idea of other life coming onto this planet from other planets or from space. I really think that if it exists, which I lean toward it definitely existing, if that's the case, I think it's more of an interdimensional thing, or that they've been here all along. So I think that this idea of Elohim coming to Earth from outer space, I think that that's all a psyop at this point. I mean, in my years of research. So, interesting fun fact, their calendar is based off of the bombing of Hiroshima. They believe this marks the age of the apocalypse or revelation. And they believe that we're coming to a point where science and technology is either going to be used for good or evil and bring about nuclear annihilation. So they see technology as essential to using it to enhance life. And this is, you know, again, a huge part of the PSYOP. They also believe in sexual liberation, which we'll get into a little bit more. He also, Raël, wanted to build an embassy for the Elohim prior to their arrival on Earth, and it must include a landing pad for their spaceship. Sound like Zecharia Sitchin? He stated that it needed to be located on internationally recognized territory so as not to indicate favor towards any one particular nation state. Initially, he sought to do this in Israel, explaining this by reference to the ancient Israelites who were once in contact with the Elohim. He also stated that this embassy would constitute the third temple referred in Jewish prophecy. I mean, does this not sound exact to you? I mean, this UFO cult lines up right with everything that we've been talking about here. Now, he didn't receive much help from the Israeli government, but who knows? The Israeli government could be running this whole freaking PSYOP cult thing, and that could be a front to make it look like, you know, he's just crazy. But then he looked into neighboring countries that might be suitable, proposing Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Egypt as possible locations, and none of the governments were favorable. But I don't know. I think this might be a whole Mossad or intelligence operation in itself. So I think that Elon Musk actually might be a part of this cult in one way or another. Raël claims that Elon is basically the greatest thing since sliced bread, and he's given him some kind of like peace award or something. But basically, everything that Elon Musk talks about is right in line with these Raëlian beliefs. Raël claims that the future society will have no war and no crime, and we already know what they're doing with pre-thought crimes and stuff like that, based off of your search results and things that you talk about online. Raël states that humans will be able to travel to other planets. Sound like Elon Musk? Raël also claims that robots will assume menial tasks, allowing humans to devote their time to pleasurable pursuits. He argues that there would be biological robots for sex slaves, basically, and that a single world currency will be introduced as a prelude to the total abolition of money, which a unified world calendar will also be adopted. Yeah, right in line with Elon Musk. Raëlians do not believe in an eternal soul. They believe that if you physically die, that you are no more. And what a perfect way to get people to stay in the trap, to get them to fear death and make them crave immortality. I mean, it's the perfect storm to get people to stay in the trap. Raëlists advocate for the development of human cloning technology on Earth. Raëlians also believe that deceased individuals can be cloned so that they could be tried and punished for their crimes. So they believe if you've died and you've done something wrong, like I think Hitler or something, they say they want to bring back from the dead so we can punish him. I mean, that is such, even if somebody does the most heinous thing, that goes against all of the laws of natural law, forcing somebody to come back. You have no right to do that. They actually proposed after September 11th, which we all know was not what we were told it was. The Raëlians proposed that they would bring back some of the suicide bombers or the attackers, that we could bring them back and that they could be tried for their actions. Okay, this is how nutso this stuff is. They also basically believe in progressing towards a no gender human, because Raël considers gender an artificial construct and emphasizes fluidity. He avoids a macho persona and is thought to be kind of feminine, even though he's got all of these beautiful women around him all the time. It's said that he basically likes to swing both ways. Hey, I really don't care what you do, but this is all, it's so obvious that it's just, you know, they believe that gender is just something that is artificial and it doesn't exist. So to me, I mean, that's just moving towards the no gender human. This is another Joseph Smithy thing. He created a group, Raël created a group called the Order of Angels in 1998, and he basically says that the women in this group are like the queens of the religion, and that they are like in waiting for the Elohim, basically, and that there'll be liaisons between the Elohim and other people in positions of power, but they can't have sex with anybody besides him, I guess, and also the Elohim. Oh, and they can have sex with each other, but no other men. Like, what the hell? When it comes to the Clone-Aid stuff and a few other organizations that they have, Ovulate is another one, to provide ovaries for individuals and couples who cannot biologically reproduce, and they create designer babies. Ensure a Clone is another one, to clone organs for an individual in the event of a future organ failure, and Clone a Pet for cloning people's pets after they die. So all those companies, in addition to Clone-Aid, which started in 1997, it's like, where the hell did they get the money to start these organizations, because I looked at the numbers, and I don't think that there was enough money coming in just from members of the religion and the tithing to create these cloning companies. So again, intelligence has to be involved in this one way or another, in my opinion, and that the religious part is just a front, almost to make it look like it's so kooky and out there, when it's really like going to be a huge part of society's future. Another fun fact is they believe in genetically modified foods. Of course they do. So we're getting close to the end. And I thought I'd end on this note because it's just so crazy. So members sign a contract, and when they die, a mortician cuts a piece of bone from their forehead after death, and they understand this as the third eye. The specimen will be stored in ice at a Swiss facility until the Elohim return, at which time it may be used to clone the deceased individual. This process is known as the lifting of the frontal bone. In addition, people who join are expected to bequeath their assets to the local Raëlian group. So you die, you have to give everything to them. And I'm going to end on this note because it ties everything together again, and everything that I talked about at the very beginning. Some former Christian clergy members have joined the Raëlians, sometimes being swiftly promoted to the level of priest or bishop due to the skills that are brought with them from previous religious organizations. In 2004, for example, Ron Boston, a former bishop of, wait for it, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, joined the Raëlian movement, stating that doing so would allow him to embrace his homosexuality. So they're probably getting LDS Mormon members, gay LDS Mormon members in the closet and bringing them over yonder. So I'm sure that there is a crossover, because there certainly are so many parallels. It's not even funny. But anyway, I know I read a lot this episode, but this is a topic that is brand new to me. It just so happens that it ties into the theories that I've been talking about. So you do your own investigation and homework and see what you think. I'll be out next week because it's Thanksgiving and I'm traveling for the holidays. I'll be driving to Pennsylvania, so I'll be gone all week, but I'll be back the following week, and I have a guest who most of you will be familiar with when I'm back, and I'll see you soon.